Well, I know that earlier in my career, I did face that issue because, obviously, you see very few women in my field. A lot of them are it's a very male-dominated field. So it was, the people used to see through me. I don't know if you get what I mean. They used to see through me. I would be there, part of the project. But then if they want to ask questions or clarifications from anybody regarding the project I was working on, they would automatically direct these questions to the guys.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Just for Women Africa. And before we start the show, do not forget to hit the like button, hit the subscribe, tell your friend who knows a friend about Just for Women Africa. And today on the show, we have African Magic Viewer Choice Award nominee in the name of Bolanle Akintomide. Yeah, welcome to the show, Bolanle.
Thank you for having me, Lisa.
All right, before we get started with the show, do not forget. Before we get started with the show, Bolanle, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. I'm a producer. I am into content production. I started off in advertising. I worked in Extreme Ideas and Up in the Sky for a period from 2012. And I left advertising in 2021. Currently, I'm the line producer for Nigerian Idols. And I'm working on a few other projects that I cannot mention here.
Okay, but that's great. All right. So how did you get into the production line?
Ooh. Okay. I can't say it was deliberate, but I feel like it was always meant to be. I was one of those kids that was always fascinated with advertising. So every time an ad came on TV, I'll be like, ooh, I'll be so caught up in it. I wasn't ever annoyed by ads. I would always want to watch the ads whenever they came up on TV. And when I was in university, I studied dramatic arts at IFE. When I was in university, I was lucky enough to work on some TV, on some films, just like behind the scenes for some of our lecturers. So the whole creation process was something I became really interested in. Just the whole idea of seeing scripts come to life from words on paper to something you can actually see. It always intrigued me. But then I left school and reality hit. I couldn't really find a way in. So I just went into customer service, which was with MTN. Worked in there for a bit. And then a friend of mine recommended me for a position in Extreme Ideas. Now, I couldn't get in as a producer, so I had to come into Extreme Ideas as a front desk officer because that was what they needed at the time. But my friend was like, just come in, see what's around, and then see if, it's possible for you to make a shift into production. And fortunately for me, that is actually what happened. I think after a month at the front desk, everybody was like, oh, she's wasted there. We need to put her where her skills are better managed. And I was moved over to the production department at Extreme Ideas. And from there, it was more or less smooth sailing. I worked as a production assistant for a bit. And then in 2014, I actually had to manage the department for a bit because of some internal issues that happened. And from then, it's more or less become how I earn my bread.
Okay, Bolanle, that's great. All right, so can you tell us what is it actually like being a female producer? Do the men feel you should not be in their space, or do the men feel it's a man's role and women should not be there?
Well, I know that earlier in my career, I did face that issue because, obviously, you see very few women in my field. A lot of them are it's a very male-dominated field. So it was, the people used to see through me. I don't know if you get what I mean. They used to see through me. I would be there, part of the project. But then if they want to ask questions or clarifications from anybody regarding the project I was working on, they would automatically direct these questions to the guys. And a lot of times, the guys that they would direct the questions to, fine, we were working in the same organization, but they were in a totally different department. So let's say I'm going for a shoot now. If I'm going for a shoot for my team, there would be me from the production team, but then there would also have to be people from the creative team, because they are the ones that come up with the scripts that we would produce. So there'll be people from the creative team they'll just need to be there to be sure that whatever it was we were shooting would fit into the creative idea. So it was a collaboration of sorts. I'm the one that would bring on the crew for the production, but then they wouldn't ask me the questions. They would ask my male colleagues that were not in my department. They would be asking the male colleagues in the other departments. And I'll just be looking like, yo, I literally was the one that reached out to you, called you, sent you emails regarding this project. Can you not do me the favor of actually respecting that just a little? But I didn't really take it seriously then, because I was just like, it's one of those things. It was actually, I think, a few years back when I look back to how I started, and I realized that maybe what it takes is for people to understand that you are here to stay and to respect what you bring to the game. It's not easy. It's not something that you get automatically. You actually have to work at it. And after a while, I began to realize that people were naturally coming to me for solutions. So that thing that happened at the beginning, where they would be directing questions to the male colleagues because they thought they were the ones in charge, it gradually phased out when they realized that, okay, I knew what I was talking about. I knew what I wanted to achieve. I knew what I wanted to bring to life from whatever it was I gave to them. So even though, yes, I did face a bit of sexism at the beginning of the career, right now, I think I'm proud to say that no matter whatever set I'm on, the respect my position requires is given to me. It took a while, but we're finally there.
Okay, that's quite interesting. All right, you work with Nigerian Idols. Could you walk us through people see what goes on stage during the Idols performances and all, the music, when they win and all. Could you just take us through what has it actually been like a producer on Nigerian Idols before the final show?
Okay, so you'd like me to take you through the week before the show airs on Sunday night, Avi?
Exactly.
Okay, so the way it worked backstage, is we literally work from Mondays to Sundays. We spend the whole week, Mondays to Saturdays, preparing for the show, the hour and a half show you guys see Sunday night. Mondays, the songs are rehearsed with the contestants. They literally rehearse the songs Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays. Friday, Saturday, we are at the venue rehearsing on stage. If they also have to dance on stage with their performances, those rehearsals also take place those 2 days. So it's you're more or less going to 24/7, because you're preparing for their costumes, you're making sure that the songs are delivered properly, you're making sure that the music bed that they perform to is created properly so that it's in line with whatever it is the contestants perform. You're making sure that whoever it is that is coming for the rehearsals is fed, is watered. You're making sure that 1,001 things are all working just for that hour and a half show on Sunday. It was my first time in TV production, especially live TV production, and it was really, really intense. I never knew that much work had to go into just an hour and a half performance, even though I did have a history in dramatic arts and I know the kind of rehearsals we had to go through for performances on stage. It was a different thing experiencing it live. Like, you would finish the show Sunday night, you wouldn't get home until like 11-12 midnight, and by 8 a.m. the next morning you're already back at the rehearsal point, just so that you can get ready for the next show on Sunday. It was more or less you are always on the wheel, just making sure that the performances were great. You also had to be like what they call them, mental health care people for the contestants. You had to take care of their mental health, make sure that they were in a great place to perform. So you couldn't scold them too much. You had to make sure that their needs were provided for, because we had to house them for the entirety of their stay on the show. You had to make sure that they were fed. They had things. I mean, basic things like sweets, chocolates. So we had to make sure that they had it just so that they would be in a great frame of mind to perform. But then I think I understood at the end of the day why all these things were necessary, because our show is built around these contestants. You understand? The public sees the contestant. The public doesn't see all the work that goes backstage. They see the contestants. So the only way we can draw the audience to the show is to make sure that the contestants are literally giving the performance of their lives every time they are on that stage. You can't achieve that if you just treat them off, if you treat them badly when backstage. You have to make sure that they are always ready for their performance. And that is not just a once in a life, well, it's not just once in a week thing. It has to be every day. It's an everyday thing. You have to bring it every single day for them. So that was the experience, more or less. It was intense, but it was really, really good.
Okay. I mean, that's great to know. I've always wondered what goes on behind the scenes. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about you. You did a short movie in 2019 called Oga John. Could you tell us about the story? It was nominated for the AMVCA awards.
Okay. So we came up with the concept of Oga John because at that point in time, I'm not sure if you were aware, but there was quite a lot going on in the country. We were going through a depression. So a lot of people were in a really bad mental state. So I think there were a lot. I think the week before we came up with the script, there was a report of someone who tried to jump off the third mainland bridge and had been caught just in time by state security forces or something like that. So we partnered with Manny, and we decided we wanted to tell a story that, everybody could relate to. You know, that story about you being in a deep, dark place, but then you get up every morning, you perform how happy you are, and nobody really knows what's going on about you. That's really the premise behind Oga John. We see a lady, she walks into a convenience store and she buys something. We don't actually see what it is, and she walks out. She walks to her car, and in the car, she's getting calls from friends and family. People are worried because they know something is off, but she hasn't really told anybody what is going on with her. And then she opens up the bottle, and you see a bottle of sniper, meaning that she was already planning to take her life at that point in time. However, as she opens up the bag, a card drops out of the bag, and we see the contact details for Manny. She decides to give them a call, and they give her the help that she needs. It wasn't overly elaborate. It was a simple to the point story that was effective in passing the message across. So it was really effective. A lot of people could relate to it. The feedback we got was really, really positive. And I guess the final cherry on the pie was the fact that it was nominated for an AMVCA, which we were all very proud of. It was also, we also sent it in for international awards. It won a couple of other awards, but because of the African continent we are on, I don't think anything gets bigger than the AMVCAs. So it was a really great thing for us to receive the acknowledgement of the work that we put into that film. It's always going to be my little baby, I guess.
Okay, Bolanle, that's good to hear. So how did you feel when you got nominated? Were you expecting to get nominated for the movie Oga John?
No, I wasn't expecting to get nominated. The AMVCAs is big. Like, it's big. Like, I don't know. You it's huge. We sent it in. Of course, we had to send it in because, you have to try, right? But I don't know that I was expecting it to get nominated. And the night of, I forgot that the night of the, of the nominee announcement, I forgot that it was nominee announcement, and I had slept off early. So the next morning I woke up and I was just seeing messages that, oh, congratulations, oh, well done. I was like, okay, what happened? Somebody now sent me the video of the nomination announcement. And I had to keep on rewinding it. I couldn't believe it. Like, I saw my name, Bolanle Akintomide, Oga John. It was surreal. I could not believe it. I was just there, I couldn't believe it. But it was an acceptance of, or should I say, it was evidence of the work that we had put into the film. It took a lot out of us. It's because you're never really sure how to portray depression or even suicide. It's a very delicate topic. You don't want to overstep boundaries or things like that. And I feel like that nomination proved the fact that even though the story was very simple, it was put across in a powerful way, and it was simple enough for audience members to see and understand and decide that yes, it was worthy of a nomination. And for that, I'm actually always grateful. That is something that cannot be taken away from me. It's evidence of work that I have done.
All right, so I was asking, so are there any future plans for Bolanle doing any more movies?
At the moment, no. I am currently working on a couple of TV shows, but not drama or anything like that. They're more like competition and other content-based shows.
Okay, that's good to know. All right, so we're about to bring the interview to a close. I have some few more questions to ask. Will you encourage women to get into TV production, just the way you are?
I will. I would actually. It's something that I think is actually would benefit from having way more women in production or even director roles. We don't have as many female representation as we should, which is why sometimes you see some particular storylines in the media and you're like, yeah, this actually doesn't really define my life as a woman. But because it's primarily male driven, they can only tell stories based on what they know, and there's a limit to how much even the most even the most open-minded of men, there's a limit to how much knowledge they have of how it works being a woman. I'm happy because you're seeing, at least there are way more women in the field than there were even up to like 5 years ago, and they're doing really well in what they have decided to do. It's hard though. It's hard. It's a tough job. It's a really, really tough job, but it's actually fulfilling in its own way. There is nothing like seeing work that you've done being out there and it's being appreciated, and it's so relatable by a lot of people. There is nothing like it. It's a feeling that I cannot even describe. Yes, I would actually implore that more women get into the field. Let's not be alone anymore. Let's have a family here.
Okay, that's really great to hear. What's your take on reasons why you feel there are not enough female producers in Nigeria and Africa as compared to men?
Well, for one thing, it's a lot. It's intense. I mean, come on. Remember, I told you that on some Sundays I'll be getting home like 11, 12 midnight. Do you understand how many? And if you're married, you have children, how are you going to balance the two, family and that? It's a lot of work, and it's not conventional. You understand? It's not like a regular 9 to 5 where you're like, oh, Mondays to Fridays, you know for sure. Well, if you're in Lagos, right, you have to leave your house by like 6, you're coming back by like 6. That's understandable because it's a 9 to 5 and you have to get there to get to work. Production, sometimes you are out Mondays to Sundays and you leave very early in the mornings and you come back late at night. There are very few men that can understand that. And when it comes to the situation where you are trying to make a decision between your family and your work, a lot of women would definitely go with their families, right? Because it's expected, it's the African thing. The women have to give up their careers for the families. And there are very few men that would be supportive enough. It's not a slight on you, it's just the way it is. There are very few men that would be supportive enough to encourage the woman to put in the work for that point in time, because in as much as it's intense, it's only for a period of time, right? If you're working on a project for, like, say, a month, 2 months, you know that for that month, 2 months, it's going to take everything out of you. It's going to take your time. But then there are times as well that you don't really have that much you're doing, where you're just doing paperwork, where you're just doing like pre-production and stuff like that, regular work hours. But for those 2 months, though, it is a lot. It takes a whole lot of you, and there are not enough supportive infrastructures in place to support the women being able to give that time to that kind of lifestyle. Do you understand? So that's the main challenge. That's the main issue.
Okay, that's good to hear. All right, so we're about to round up the interview. What's the future for Bolanle, and where do we see her in the next 10 years?
10 years? 10 years. 10 years is a long time. Man, I always say the future questions, because I can't say I've always had like a really clearly laid out path. I see opportunities and I take them. Do you understand? Things come up. And it could be very random. This opportunity to work on Nigerian Idols, it came at a point in my life where I wasn't sure what I wanted to do next, but I knew I was tired of advertising. It was I had given what I could to advertising, and I was just looking out for the next thing I wanted to try out.
Okay, guys, you heard it from Bolanle Akintomide herself. Just do it. I mean, just go ahead and do it. All right, Bolanle, thanks a lot for being on the show.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Wish you all the best, and we look forward to seeing more movies from you.